signs you're living for pleasures, how minimalism can set you free. Have you ever wondered why, despite having access to more entertainment, more comfort, and more distraction than any generation before us, we are still so restless? Why do we chase pleasure so relentlessly, only to feel empty once the thrill fades? Today we're going to explore something that might completely change the way you look at your life, the difference between seeking pleasure and finding true fulfillment. And by the end of this journey, you might realize that minimalism isn't just about owning fewer things, it's about freeing your mind from the endless loop of craving. Let's start with a brutal truth. Pleasure is addictive. We don't like to admit it, but the human mind is wired to seek out short-term gratification. Whether it's a new gadget, a viral video, or the next dopamine rush from social media, we are constantly in pursuit of something that will give us a quick hit of joy. But here's the paradox: pleasure, by its very nature, is fleeting. The moment you experience it, your brain immediately starts looking for the next fix. Think about the last time you bought something you really wanted. Maybe it was a new phone, or a pair of shoes, or even a car. For a while, it felt amazing. You admired it, used it, maybe even showed it off. But how long did that feeling last? A few days? A week? And then what? You found yourself wanting something else. That's because pleasure is not designed to satisfy, it's designed to entice.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love.
This cycle is everywhere. We chase success, thinking that once we reach a certain income level or achieve a certain goal, we'll finally be at peace. But as soon as we get there, we realize there's another level, another milestone, another thing to achieve. We chase relationships, thinking that the right partner will complete us, only to find that even the most passionate love fades if it's built on superficial attraction. We chase experiences, vacations, parties, adrenaline rushes, believing that if we just do enough exciting things, our lives will feel meaningful. And yet, after every high, there is always a low. The pleasure fades, and we are left searching for the next thing. But what if I told you that this endless cycle is not a flaw in life, but a flaw in how we approach it? What if the problem isn't that we don't have enough, but that we expect pleasure to give us something it never can, lasting fulfillment? This is where minimalism enters the picture, not just as a lifestyle, but as a philosophy. Minimalism isn't about deprivation. It's not about living in an empty white room with no furniture. It's about filtering out the noise, the distractions, the false promises of happiness, and focusing only on what truly matters. It's about asking yourself, what actually brings me peace? What truly fulfills me? Here's a radical idea. The less you depend on external pleasures for happiness, the freer you become. Think about it. If your happiness is tied to having a big house, a luxury car, or the latest trends, then your happiness is fragile. It depends on things outside of your control: your income, the economy, what other people think. But if your happiness comes from within, from a sense of purpose, from meaningful relationships, from inner peace, then nothing can take it away from you. This is why some of the richest people in the world are miserable, while some of the happiest people have very little. So ask yourself, are you living for pleasures, or are you living for something deeper? Are you constantly seeking the next thrill, the next purchase, the next distraction? Or are you cultivating a life that brings you contentment even in stillness? Imagine for a moment what your life would look like if you were no longer controlled by cravings. if you could enjoy pleasures without being addicted to them, if you could find joy in simplicity, in presence, in the things that truly matter. And this brings us to a question that might change everything. What if the key to happiness is not in having more, but in needing less? The illusion of more, why chasing pleasure leaves you empty. We live in a world that constantly tells us we need more. More success, more money, more experiences, more validation. The entire system is built on the idea that happiness is just beyond the horizon, always one step away. If you buy this, you'll be happy. If you achieve that, you'll be satisfied. If you experience this, you'll finally feel alive. But have you ever stopped to ask yourself, when does it end? At what point do we finally say, this is enough? The truth is, for most people, it never ends. Because the moment you get what you thought you wanted, a new desire emerges. It's like running on a treadmill, thinking you're moving towards something, but in reality you're staying in the same place. This is why so many people feel a strange emptiness despite having what they once dreamed of. You might have noticed it yourself. You work hard for a goal, thinking it will bring you happiness. Maybe it's getting into your dream school, landing a high-paying job, or moving into a bigger house. And when you finally achieve it, there's a rush of excitement. It feels amazing for a while. But then, something strange happens. The excitement fades. The goal that once seemed so significant becomes normal. And then, almost instinctively, your mind finds something else to chase. A new level, a new dream, a new pleasure. And the cycle repeats. Why does this happen? Because pleasure, by its nature, is temporary. It was never meant to last. It's a quick burst of dopamine, a momentary high, a fleeting sensation. It's like drinking salt water. When you're thirsty, the more you consume, the thirstier you become. But the problem is, we mistake pleasure for happiness. We think that because something feels good in the moment, it will bring lasting fulfillment. But fulfillment and pleasure are not the same. One is deep and enduring, the other is shallow and fleeting. Think about how social media is designed. Every like, every comment, every notification is a tiny hit of dopamine. It feels good, but only for a moment. And because it's so easy to access, we keep coming back for more. We scroll endlessly, chasing the next moment of validation, the next distraction, the next tiny pleasure. But the more we consume, the more restless we become. The same is true for entertainment, for shopping, for food, for any form of instant gratification. The more we indulge, the more we crave. And over time, we become slaves to our own desires, trapped in an endless cycle of seeking. But what if you could step off the treadmill? What if you didn't have to chase pleasure to feel whole? What if you could be content without constantly needing more? This is what minimalism offers, not just in material possessions, but in mindset. Minimalism is about stripping away the unnecessary, the distractions, the false promises, and discovering what truly matters. It's about realizing that happiness isn't in the next purchase, the next achievement, or the next experience. It's in my presence, in simplicity, in gratitude. Imagine for a moment that you had nothing to prove, that you didn't need approval from others, that you didn't need to chase the next big thing to feel worthy. But how much lighter would your life feel? How much more peaceful would your mind be? Because here's the truth, the less you need, the freer you become. When you stop chasing external validation, you find internal peace. When you stop relying on pleasure for happiness, you discover joy in the simplest things. But this isn't easy. The world constantly tells us that we're not enough, that we need more to be happy. Advertisers spend billions convincing us that we're missing something, that we need to buy, achieve, consume. And because we've been conditioned this way since childhood, it feels almost unnatural to step back and question it. But ask yourself who benefits from your endless craving, who profits from your dissatisfaction. The answer is clear, not you. So what would happen if you stopped playing the game? If you stopped believing the lie that happiness is always somewhere else? What if, instead of chasing more, you started appreciating what you already have? What if, instead of seeking pleasure, you sought meaning? Because meaning is what lasts. It's what gives life depth. And unlike pleasure, it doesn't fade, it grows. This is why some of the most fulfilled people in history weren't the ones who had everything, but the ones who needed very little. Monks, philosophers, great thinkers, they understood something most people never do. That true freedom comes not from acquiring, but from letting go. And maybe, just maybe, the key to happiness isn't in adding more to your life, but in removing what weighs you down. So, I'll leave you with this question. What are you holding on to that's keeping you from true peace? And more importantly, are you willing to let it go? Breaking free from the chains of desire, the path to true fulfillment. If you take a step back and observe your life, how much of your time is spent in pursuit? How many of your thoughts revolve around what you don't have yet, what you need to achieve, what you hope will finally bring you the satisfaction you crave? The truth is, most of us live in a state of constant wanting. Even when we think we are content, there's an underlying restlessness, a subtle feeling that something is missing, that there's more to be had, more to be done, and more to be experienced. But have you ever stopped to ask yourself, what if the thing I'm chasing is not what I actually need? Desire itself is not the problem. It's natural to want things, to seek improvement, to strive for a better life. But when desire turns into an endless loop, when it becomes the very foundation of your existence, you become trapped. You are no longer living freely, you are living conditionally. Your happiness is always dependent on the next thing, the next paycheck, the next partner, the next milestone. And because there is always something more to want, you are never truly at peace. You are always waiting, always reaching, always believing that just a little more will finally be enough. But has it ever been enough? Think back to the biggest achievements of your life, the moments where you thought you had finally arrived. How long did the satisfaction last before your mind started searching for the next thing? This is the trap of materialism, of consumer culture, of a society that thrives on keeping you unsatisfied. You are told that happiness is just one purchase away, one success away, one experience away. But the moment you obtain it, the feeling fades and the craving returns. And this is where minimalism offers not just a lifestyle shift, but a radical new way of thinking. Minimalism is not about rejecting desire, it is about understanding it. It is about recognizing that the things you are chasing might not be the things that bring true fulfillment. It is about questioning whether you need as much as you think you do. Imagine what your life would feel like if you stopped needing so much. If you could wake up in the morning and feel content, not because you achieved something new, but simply because you are alive. If you could enjoy the present moment without worrying about what's next. If you could find joy in simplicity, in small moments, in the richness of what already exists. This is what minimalism teaches, not just in physical possessions, but in mindset. It is the power of needing less, of being free from the constant grasping for more. But freedom is not easy. The world will tell you that you are missing out, that you should want more, that you should never be satisfied. Social media will show you people who seem to have it all, who are living the life you think you want. Advertisements will flood your mind with images of luxury, of status, of the illusion of a perfect life. And if you are not careful, you will spend your entire existence chasing a dream that was never really yours. So how do you break free? How do you step away from a system designed to keep you wanting? It starts with awareness. It starts with asking yourself, why do I want what I want? Is it because it truly brings me joy, or because I have been conditioned to believe that it will? It starts with observing your own mind, noticing the moments when desire arises, and questioning whether that desire is real or manufactured. It starts with simplifying, not just your possessions, but your expectations, your attachments, your need for external validation. The irony is, the less you need, the more you actually enjoy life. When you are no longer dependent on material things for happiness, you begin to appreciate them in a new way. A simple meal tastes better when you are not constantly craving something fancier. A quiet evening feels richer when you are not distracted by the need for more stimulation. Relationships become deeper when they are not based on what the other person can give you, but on genuine connection. This is not about deprivation. It is not about denying yourself joy. On the contrary, it is about finding joy in places you never noticed before. It is about realizing that happiness is not something you acquire, it is something you uncover, something that has always been within you, buried beneath layers of unnecessary desire. So ask yourself, what would your life look like if you stopped needing so much? If you stopped chasing and simply started being? If you could find fulfillment not in the future, but in this very moment? Because here's the truth: peace is not something you find at the end of the journey, but it is something you choose right now in the present. But the question is, are you brave enough to choose it? The power of letting go, how minimalism leads to true freedom. At some point, you have to ask yourself, what am I really holding on to? What am I afraid to release? Most people spend their entire lives accumulating not just possessions, but expectations, attachments, identities, and fears. We cling to things because we believe they define us. We hold on to desires because we think they give our lives meaning. But what if the opposite is true? What if the very act of holding on is what keeps us trapped? What if real freedom has nothing to do with acquiring something new, but in learning how to let go? Letting go is terrifying because it forces us to confront an uncomfortable truth: we are not in control. We spend our days trying to build a future that aligns with our desires, thinking that if we just manage everything correctly, we will finally be safe, finally happy. But life is unpredictable. No matter how much you accumulate, no matter how carefully you plan, everything is temporary. The things you own, the status you achieve, the pleasures you chase, they all fade. And if your sense of self is built upon them, what happens when they disappear? What happens when the things you thought defined you are no longer there? This is why so many people live in a state of quiet anxiety, because deep down, they know that everything they are clinging to is fragile. Minimalism, in its deepest form, is not just about simplifying your physical possessions. It is about detaching from the illusion that external things can give you lasting happiness. It is about recognizing that peace does not come from control, but from surrender. When you stop needing life to be a certain way, when you stop demanding that the world give you what you want, a strange thing happens: you become free. You stop reacting to every loss, every disappointment, every unmet expectation as if it is the end of the world. You begin to see that you were never meant to control everything, but you were only meant to experience life as it is, without resistance, without clinging, without fear. Imagine what your life would feel like if you were no longer afraid of losing anything. If you could appreciate what you have without the desperate need to keep it forever. If you could engage with life fully, without attachment, without fear of change. This is the power of letting go. It is not about giving up, it is about stepping into something greater. It is about realizing that you do not need to chase, to grasp, to accumulate in order to be happy. You only need to be present, to be grateful, to be alive in this moment without needing anything more. This does not mean you should not have goals. It does not mean you should not enjoy life's pleasures. But it does mean that you must stop expecting them to complete you. You must stop believing that happiness is something you will find once everything is perfect. Because perfection is an illusion, and the more you chase it, the more it eludes you. True peace is found in embracing imperfection, in being content with what is, rather than always longing for what could be. So now, the final question: what are you willing to release? What burdens have you been carrying that no longer serve you? What would happen if you stopped chasing, stopped clinging, stopped resisting? Because the moment you do, you will realize something extraordinary: life was never meant to be a struggle. Happiness was never something to be earned. It was always here, waiting for you, in the simplicity of the present moment. The only thing standing between you and freedom is your willingness to let go. And now, the choice is yours. Will you keep running, keep chasing, keep believing that more is the answer? Or will you finally stop, breathe, and realize that everything you've been searching for has been within you all along?